A little girl dials 911 and whispers 5 haunting words. What the police uncover next shocks everyone. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning at the Mon County 911 Emergency Center in Georgia. The autumn sunlight poured through the windows, warming. The quiet room where half-finished coffee cups steamed on scattered desks. The usual hum of routine calls filled the air. Small accidents, kitchen fires, and lost pets. For 15 years, Olivia Carter had answered thousands of emergencies. She thought she'd heard every possible cry for help, but absolutely nothing could have prepared her for what happened at 9:47 a.m. The phone rang, its urgent tone slicing through the room. Olivia slid on her headset, expecting another minor incident, but the moment she spoke, a tiny, trembling voice crept through the line, so soft it was almost swallowed by silence. "Hello? Is this the police?" Olivia straightened in her chair, her instincts kicking in immediately. It was a child, a little girl, no more than 7 or 8, her words shaking with fear. "Yes, sweetheart. This is Sarah. I'm here to help you. What's your name?" "My name is Emma," the child whispered, barely loud enough to hear. "That's a beautiful name, Emma," Olivia said gently, trying to keep her own voice steady. "Can you tell me what's going on? Are you hurt?" There was a pause, the sound of quick, uneven breathing on the other end, as though Lily was summoning courage to speak. When she finally did, her words froze Sarah's blood. "He said it wouldn't hurt." But it did. And he said, "I can't tell anyone, but I think I need help." Sarah's stomach dropped. In all her years as a dispatcher, she'd learned to recognize danger before anyone else did, and this was one of those moments. Every alarm bell in her head was screaming. "Emma, honey, you did the right thing by calling me. You're so brave. Can you tell me where you are? Are you safe right now?" "I'm in my room," Lily breathed. "He's downstairs with my mommy. They think I'm sleeping. But I'm scared to sleep." Olivia forced herself to sound calm, even as her fingers flew across the console, tracing the call. "Sweetheart, calling me was the smartest thing you could do. You're not in trouble, okay? I'm sending someone very nice to check on you. Can you stay on the phone with me?" But before Lily could answer, the faint sound of muffled voices drifted through the line, footsteps drawing closer. "I have to go," Lily whispered urgently. "I hear him coming. Please, please help me." And then the line went silent. Olivia stared at her screen in shock, her heart pounding like a drum. In 15 years of taking emergency calls, she had never felt such a deep, visceral fear for a child's safety. The address had been traced to 2147 Maple Street, a quiet residential neighborhood she knew well. Without hesitation, she immediately dispatched the closest patrol unit. Ryan Walker was only 3 minutes away. As Olivia sent the emergency alert, Emma's voice echoed in her mind. There was something in that little girl's tone, a mixture of innocence and terror that didn't belong in any child's voice. Olivia had heard that same quality only a few times before, and it always meant the same thing. A child was in danger and needed protection immediately. She grabbed her coffee with trembling hands, knowing this call would change everything for Emma, for the officers responding, and for herself. Little did Olivia know that this single phone call would uncover a situation that would touch the hearts of an entire community and remind everyone of the incredible courage that can live inside even the smallest, most vulnerable among us. Ryan Walker's radio crackled to life as he finished his morning patrol route. The urgency in the dispatcher's voice made him immediately pull over. "Unit 23, we have a priority call involving a child at 247 Maple Street. Possible emergency situation. Respond immediately." Daniel's stomach dropped. As a father of 6-year-old Sophie, any call involving children hit him differently than other emergencies. He could picture his own daughter's face, and the thought of any child in danger made his protective instincts surge. He flipped on his sirens and raced toward Maple Street, his mind already preparing for whatever he might find. In his 5 years as a police officer, Ryan had learned to trust his instincts. And right now, every instinct was telling him this call was going to be unlike any other. Chapter 1. The Call That Changed Everything. Before we dive into this incredible story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to connect with you. Now let's begin this journey together. It was just another Tuesday morning at the Mon County 911 Emergency Center in Georgia. The autumn sun streamed through the windows as coffee cups steamed on desks, and the usual of routine calls filled the air. For 15 years, Olivia Carter had answered thousands of emergency calls. Everything from kitchen fires to lost pets to serious accidents. She thought she'd heard it all, but absolutely nothing could have prepared her for what was about to happen. At 9:47 a.m., the phone rang with its familiar, urgent tone. Olivia adjusted her headset with practice efficiency, expecting another routine call about a fender bender or a medical emergency. Instead, she heard something that would haunt her dreams for months to come. A tiny voice, barely above a whisper, trembled through the line. It was a child, a little girl who couldn't have been older than 7 or 8 years old. "Hello, is this the police?" the small voice asked, filled with fear and confusion. Sarah's heart immediately softened. Children calling 911 were always handled with extra care. "Yes, sweetheart, this is Sarah. I'm here to help you. What's your name?" "My name is Emma," came the reply. So quiet, Olivia had to strain to hear. "That's a beautiful name, Emma. Can you tell me what's happening? Are you hurt?" There was a long pause. Olivia could hear the child breathing, almost as if she was trying to find courage to speak. When Lily finally responded, her words sent ice through Sarah's veins. "He said it wouldn't hurt, but it did hurt. And he said, 'I can't tell anyone, but I think I need help.'" Sarah's hands began to shake. In all her years of emergency dispatch, she had developed an instinct for recognizing when something was terribly wrong. This was one of those moments. Every alarm bell in her experienced mind was ringing. "Emma, honey, you did the right thing by calling. You're very brave. Can you tell me where you are right now? Are you safe? I'm in my room. He's downstairs with my mommy. They think I'm sleeping, but I'm scared to sleep." Sarah's training kicked in immediately. She began tracing the call while keeping her voice calm and reassuring. "Emma, I want you to know that calling me was the smartest thing you could do. You're not in trouble, okay? I'm going to send someone very nice to check on you. Can you stay on the phone with me?" But the line went quiet for several seconds. Olivia could hear muffled voices in the background growing closer. "I have to go," Lily whispered urgently. "I hear footsteps. Please help me." The line went dead. Olivia stared at her screen in shock, her heart pounding like a drum. In 15 years of taking emergency calls, she had never felt such a deep, visceral fear for a child's safety. The address had been traced to 247 Maple Street, a quiet residential neighborhood she knew well. Without hesitation, she immediately dispatched the closest patrol unit. Ryan Walker was only 3 minutes away. As Olivia sent the emergency alert, Emma's voice echoed in her mind. There was something in that little girl's tone, a mixture of innocence and terror that didn't belong in any child's voice. Olivia had heard that same quality only a few times before, and it always meant the same thing. A child was in danger and needed protection immediately. She grabbed her coffee with trembling hands, knowing this call would change everything for Emma, for the officers responding, and for herself. Little did Olivia know that this single phone call would uncover a situation that would touch the hearts of an entire community and remind everyone of the incredible courage that can live inside even the smallest, most vulnerable among us. Ryan Walker's radio crackled to life as he finished his morning patrol route. The urgency in the dispatcher's voice made him immediately pull over. "Unit 23, we have a priority call involving a child at 247 Maple Street. Possible emergency situation. Respond immediately." Daniel's stomach dropped. As a father of 6-year-old Sophie, any call involving children hit him differently than other emergencies. He could picture his own daughter's face, and the thought of any child in danger made his protective instincts surge. He flipped on his sirens and raced toward Maple Street, his mind already preparing for whatever he might find. In his 5 years as a police officer, Ryan had learned to trust his instincts. And right now, every instinct was telling him this call was going to be unlike any other. The silence that followed Lisa's call stretched longer than it should have. Ryan stood in the living room, taking in details that his trained eye automatically catalogued. Family photos lined the mantel. Pictures of Maya and a beautiful little girl with golden hair and bright blue eyes smiling at birthday parties and playgrounds. But something felt off about the newest photos. The smiles seemed smaller, less genuine. "Amma, sweetheart," Maya called again, her voice carrying a note of urgency that she was trying to hide. "Come say hello, please." Ryan heard soft footsteps on the stairs, slow and hesitant. Then, like a shadow emerging from the darkness, Lily Dawson appeared at the bottom of the staircase. Daniel's heart immediately went out to this little girl. At 7 years old, Lily should have been bursting with energy and curiosity, especially when meeting a police officer. Most kids her age were fascinated by uniforms and badges. Instead, she stood frozen at the edge of the room, clutching a worn teddy bear against her chest like it was her only protection in the world. Emma's big blue eyes were the saddest Ryan had ever seen on a child. They reminded him of an old soul trapped in a young body, eyes that had seen things no 7-year-old should ever have to see. She kept her gaze fixed on the floor, as if looking directly at adults had become something dangerous. "Hi there, Emma," Ryan said in his gentlest voice, crouching down to her eye level. "I'm Officer Carter. I really like your teddy bear." "What's his name?" Lily glanced up for just a split second before looking away again. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Mr. Buttons. He keeps me safe." The way she said it broke Daniel's heart. This wasn't the playful imagination of a child talking about her favorite toy. This was a little girl who genuinely believed her. Stuffed animal was her protector because she didn't feel safe anywhere else. "That's wonderful that Mr. Buttons takes such good care of you," Ryan replied, noticing how Lily seemed to shrink even smaller when footsteps approached from the kitchen. A man's voice called out cheerfully, "Lisa, everything okay out there?" "Everything's fine, Marcus," Maya replied quickly. But Ryan caught the way her entire body tensed when she heard his voice. Ethan Cole entered the room with the kind of smile that was just a little too perfect. He was tall, well-dressed, and moved with the confidence of someone who was used to charming his way through any situation. But Ryan immediately noticed something that made his protective instincts flare. The moment Ethan appeared, Lily seemed to try to disappear entirely, pressing herself against the wall and holding Mr. Buttons even tighter. "Well, hello there, officer," Ethan said, extending his hand with practiced ease. "Ethan Cole. I hope there's nothing wrong in the neighborhood." Ryan shook his hand, studying Marcus's face carefully, "Just following up on a call we received. Routine check to make sure everyone's safe and sound." "A call? How strange," Ethan said, glancing at Maya, with what looked like concern but felt more like control. "We've been having such a peaceful morning, haven't we, Emma?" When Ethan looked at her, Lily seemed to shrink even more. She nodded quickly but didn't speak. "Emma's been a little under the weather," Ethan continued smoothly. "Haven't you, sweetheart? That's why she's been so quiet lately. Kids get these moods. You know how it is." Ryan did know how it was with kids. He had a daughter the same age, and what he was seeing wasn't a mood or illness. It was fear. Pure, quiet fear. "I'm sorry you haven't been feeling well, Emma," Ryan said gently. "Sometimes when we don't feel good, it helps to talk about it. Is there anything you'd like to tell me?" Emma's eyes darted quickly to Marcus, then to her mother, then back to the floor. She shook her head almost imperceptibly. "See?" Ethan said. with that perfect smile. "She's just been tired. We've been taking such good care of her, haven't we, Lisa?" Maya nodded, but Ryan could see the internal struggle playing out across her face. Something was very wrong here, and every instinct he had developed as both a father and a police officer was screaming danger. The house might have looked perfect from the outside with its flower boxes and welcome mat, but inside these walls, Ryan sensed secrets that were casting shadows over a little girl's world. And he wasn't leaving until he figured out how to bring some light back into Emma's eyes. As he looked at this precious child holding her teddy bear like a lifeline, Ryan made a silent promise. Whatever was making Lily afraid, whatever was stealing the joy from her childhood, he was going to find a way to help her. Because every child deserved to feel safe. Every child deserved to smile without fear. Ryan crouched down to Emma's level again, speaking in the same gentle tone he used with his own daughter, Sophie. "Emma, I bet Mr. Buttons has been with you for a long time. Does he help you when you feel scared?" Emma's grip on the teddy bear tightened, and for just a moment her eyes met Daniel's. In that brief connection, he saw something that made his heart ache. A little girl who desperately wanted to trust someone, but had learned that trusting could be dangerous. "He tells me secrets," Lily whispered so quietly that Ryan had to lean closer to hear her. "Good secrets, not scary ones." The distinction she made between good and scary secrets sent alarm bells ringing in Daniel's mind. Children Emma's age shouldn't need to categorize secrets that way unless they'd been taught the difference through difficult experience. "That sounds very special," Ryan said softly. "Mr. Buttons must be a very good friend to share good secrets with you." Marcus, who had been watching this interaction carefully, stepped forward with what appeared to be concern, but felt more like intervention. "Emma's always been very imaginative," he said with a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "She creates these elaborate stories about her toys. Kids, sometimes it's hard to tell what's real and what's make-believe." Ryan noticed how Lily seemed to physically shrink when Ethan spoke about her. The way her shoulders hunched, how she pressed herself closer to the wall. These weren't the actions of a child who felt safe and loved by the adult in her life. "I think children's imaginations are wonderful," Ryan replied, never taking his eyes off Emma. "Sometimes kids notice things that adults miss. They're very smart that way." Lily looked up at him again, and this time Ryan saw a flicker of something. Hope, recognition that someone might actually listen to her. "Emma's been having some trouble sleeping lately," Maya said suddenly, her voice tight with worry. "She keeps saying she has bad dreams, but we can't figure out what's causing them." "Bad dreams can be really scary," Ryan acknowledged, speaking directly to Emma. "Do you remember what happens in your dreams, sweetheart?" Emma's eyes darted quickly to Marcus, then back to Daniel. She opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it again. Ryan could see the internal struggle, a child who wanted to tell the truth, but had been taught that speaking up might bring consequences. Inside Emma's mind, she thought to herself, "Mr. Button says I should tell someone, but what if something bad happens? What if they don't believe me, like Ethan said they wouldn't?" "Sometimes," Lily began, her voice barely audible. "Sometimes in my dreams, someone comes into my room when I don't want them to, and they say we're playing games. But the games don't. They feel fun. They feel wrong." The room fell into a heavy silence. Daniel's jaw tightened as he processed what Lily had just shared. Lisa's face went pale, and Ethan quickly stepped forward. "See what I mean about her imagination?" Ethan said, forcing a laugh. "She watches too much television. I think kids these days see things on shows and then think they're real experiences." But Ryan was watching Emma's face as Ethan spoke, and he saw something that confirmed his worst fears. Lily wasn't describing imagination or television shows. She was describing something real, something that was happening to her. And the fear in her eyes when Ethan dismissed her words was absolutely genuine. "Emma," Ryan said carefully, "when you have these dreams, do you ever try to tell someone about them? Lily nodded slowly. I tried to tell. She glanced fearfully at Marcus, but I was told that no one would believe me, that it was just our special secret, and if I told anyone, bad things might happen to Mommy. Maya gasped audibly, and Ryan saw her hands begin to shake. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, and the picture they created was heartbreaking. Marcus's perfect composure finally cracked slightly. Emma, sweetheart, we've talked about how sometimes you mix up dreams with real life. Officer Carter doesn't need to hear about your nightmares, but Ryan was trained to recognize when a child was telling the truth about something serious, and every fiber of his being was screaming that Emma's dreams were not dreams at all. This precious little girl was trying to ask for help in the only way she knew how, by describing her reality as if it was something that happened while she was sleeping. Emma, Ryan said gently, you're very brave for talking about your dreams. Sometimes the best way to make bad dreams stop is to tell safe adults about them. Lily looked at him with those wise, sad eyes and whispered, do you think the bad dreams could really stop? I think, Ryan said, his voice full of determination, that there are a lot of people who want to help make sure you only have good dreams from now on. Ryan could feel the atmosphere in the room shifting like storm clouds gathering before thunder. Marcus's carefully constructed charm was beginning to crack, and the man standing before him was revealing glimpses of someone far more calculating than the friendly boyfriend he pretended to be. Officer Carter, Ethan said, his voice taking on a slightly sharper edge. I think you might be reading too much into a child's overactive imagination. Lily has always been sensitive, haven't you, sweetheart? When Ethan looked directly at Emma, something chilling happened. The little girl seemed to fold in on herself, becoming smaller and quieter, as if his gaze alone had the power to silence her. Ryan had seen this reaction before in his police work. It was the response of someone who had learned that speaking up brought unwanted consequences. Actually, Mr. Thompson, Ryan said carefully, in my experience, children are often more honest about their feelings than adults give them credit for. Lily seems like a very smart little girl. Marcus's smile became tighter, more forced. Of course, she's smart. That's exactly why she sometimes gets confused between what she sees on television and what's real. You know how kids are with their stories. But Maya had gone very quiet, staring at her daughter with a new kind of awareness. Ryan could see the wheels turning in her mind, connecting dots she had perhaps been afraid to connect before. Emma, Maya said softly, kneeling down beside her daughter. When you have these dreams, can you tell Mommy where they happen? Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she whispered, in my room, when you're asleep or when you go to the store. He says it's our special time, but I don't like special time. It makes me feel yucky inside. The simple, honest words hit Maya like a physical blow. Ryan watched as a mother's worst fears began to crystallize into terrible understanding. That's enough, Ethan said sharply, his mask of friendliness finally slipping completely. This conversation is getting out of hand. Emma, go to your room, now. But something remarkable happened. Instead of immediately obeying, as she clearly had been trained to do, Lily looked at Daniel. In that moment, she seemed to find a small spark of courage. I don't want to go to my room, Lily said, her voice trembling but determined. I want to stay here with the nice policeman. Marcus's face darkened. Emma, I said, go to your room. We don't disobey in this house. Actually, Ryan interjected, his own voice now carrying the full authority of his badge. I think Lily should stay right here. We're not finished with our conversation. The tension in the room was now thick enough to cut with a knife. Ethan realized that his careful control of the situation was slipping away, and Ryan could see him calculating his next move. Listen, officer, Ethan said, attempting to regain his composure. I don't know what kind of ideas you're putting in this child's head, but we're a happy family here. Lily sometimes gets attention by making up stories. It's a phase kids go through. Is it a phase, Emma? Ryan asked gently, never breaking eye contact with the little girl. Are these just stories you're making up? Lily clutched Mr. Buttons closer and shook her head. No, she whispered, they're not stories. They're real and they make me scared. But he told me that if I ever told anyone, something bad would happen to Mommy and we'd lose our house. Maya gasped and covered her mouth with her hands. The manipulation was now crystal clear. Ethan had used Emma's love for her mother and fear of losing their home to keep her silent about whatever had been happening. You promised you'd keep our secrets, Emma, Ethan said, his voice low and threatening despite Daniel's presence. Remember what we talked about? But for the first time since Ryan had arrived, Lily stood a little straighter. She looked directly at Ethan and said something that took incredible courage for a 7-year-old girl. I don't want to keep scary secrets anymore. The policeman said there are people who can help make the bad dreams stop. Ryan felt a surge of pride and protective fury all at once. This brave little girl was finally finding her voice, and he was going to make sure that voice was heard and protected. That's right, Emma, Ryan said firmly, and I promise you that from this moment on, you will never have to keep scary secrets again. Marcus's carefully constructed world was collapsing around him, and everyone in the room could feel it. The question now was what he would do when cornered. The silence in the room was deafening. Maya stared at her daughter with tears streaming down her face, finally seeing the truth she had been too afraid to acknowledge. Her hands trembled as she reached toward Emma, who instinctively stepped closer to Daniel. Emma, baby, Maya whispered, her voice breaking. Mommy is so sorry. I should have listened. I should have seen. Ethan stood frozen, realizing that his carefully built world of lies was crumbling around him. For months, he had convinced Maya that Lily was just going through a phase, that her changes in behavior were normal childhood adjustments. He had been so skilled at explaining away every red flag that Maya had ignored her own maternal instincts. This is ridiculous, Ethan said, but his voice lacked the confidence it had carried just minutes before. You're all overreacting to a child's imagination. Emma, tell them you were just making up stories. But Emma, emboldened by Daniel's presence and her mother's tears of recognition, shook her head firmly. No, Marcus, I'm not making up stories, and I'm not going to lie anymore. Ryan felt his heart swell with pride for this incredibly brave little girl. At 7 years old, Lily was showing more courage than many adults he knew. She was standing up to someone who had taught her to be afraid, and she was doing it to protect herself and help her mother see the truth. Lisa, Ryan said gently, I think it would be good if you and Lily came with me to the police station. We have specially trained people there who are experts at helping children and families in situations like this. No, Ethan said sharply, the panic now clear in his voice. They're not going anywhere. This is our home, and this is our family. You have no right to. Actually, Ryan interrupted, his voice calm but firm. I have every right to ensure the safety of a child who has expressed fear and asked for help. That's exactly what police officers are supposed to do. Lily tugged on Daniel's uniform sleeve. When he bent down to her level, she whispered, Officer Carter, will Mommy and I be safe? Ethan said that if I ever told anyone our secrets, something really bad would happen. Daniel's heart broke at the fear in her voice, but he spoke with absolute certainty. Emma, I promise you that you and your mommy are going to be completely safe. There are lots of people whose job it is to protect children, and we're all going to make sure nothing bad happens to you. Maya finally found her voice. Marcus, I need you to leave now, please. I need to think. I need to figure out how I missed this, how I let this happen to my baby. Marcus's facade of charm was completely gone now, replaced by something colder and more calculating. Lisa, You're making a huge mistake. Think about what you're throwing away. Think about your situation before I came along. Remember how desperate you were." It was a cruel reminder of Lisa's vulnerability when they first met. She had been struggling financially, facing eviction, feeling like she was failing as a mother. Ethan had appeared like a knight in shining armor, offering stability and security. But now she realized the true price of that security. "I was desperate," Maya said, her voice growing stronger. "But I was never desperate enough to put my daughter in danger. I couldn't see it. I didn't want to see it." Ryan could see that Maya was going through the agonizing process of realizing how the manipulation had worked. Ethan had slowly normalized inappropriate behavior, dismissed Emma's concerns, and isolated them from people who might have recognized the warning signs. "Mrs. Harper," Ryan said compassionately, "what's important now is that you're seeing clearly, and you're choosing to protect Emma. That takes tremendous courage." Lily walked over to her mother, and for the first time since Ryan had arrived, spoke in a voice that sounded like a normal 7-year-old. "Mommy, I still love you. I was just scared to tell you because I didn't want you to be sad." Maya knelt down and embraced her daughter, both of them crying, but for different reasons now. Maya from grief and guilt, Lily from relief that the truth was finally out. "I love you too, baby girl," Maya sobbed, "and I promise I will never let anyone hurt you again. Never." Ethan realized that he had lost complete control of the situation. His threats, his manipulation, his charm, none of it was working anymore. He was facing the collapse of everything he had built, and Ryan could see him weighing his options. "This isn't over," Ethan said quietly, but Ryan was ready for whatever came next. As Ethan stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him, Ryan immediately called for backup and requested a specialist team to help. Lily and Lisa. But what none of them knew was that their conversation had been overheard by someone who had been worried about this family for weeks. Mrs. Eleanor Walsh, 67 years old, lived in the house next door and had been watching the Harper family with growing concern ever since Ethan moved in 3 months ago. As a grandmother of 4 and a retired schoolteacher, Eleanor had spent 40 years learning to recognize when children were in trouble. Eleanor had been tending to her garden when she heard raised voices through the thin walls. When she saw Ethan leave the house looking angry and then saw the police car still parked outside, she knew something significant had happened. She knocked gently on the Harper's front door, carrying a plate of her famous chocolate chip cookies, the same ones that had comforted countless students over her teaching career. Ryan answered the door, and Eleanor looked past him to see Maya holding Lily on the couch, both of them looking exhausted, but somehow lighter than they had in months. "I'm Eleanor Walsh, from next door," she said kindly. "I hope I'm not intruding, but I wanted to make sure everyone was okay. I've been worried about you all for quite some time." Maya looked up with surprise. "Worried about us?" Eleanor stepped into the living room, her grandmother's instincts immediately focusing on Emma. "Hello, sweetheart," she said to Lily with the warm smile that had made her beloved by students for decades. "I've seen you playing in your yard, and I've been hoping we could be friends." Emma, still clinging to Mr. Buttons, looked at this kind lady with curiosity, rather than the fear she had shown toward other adults recently. "Mrs. Walsh," Ryan said, "what exactly have you been worried about?" Eleanor sat down carefully, choosing her words thoughtfully. "Well, I've lived in this neighborhood for 30 years, and I know the sounds of a happy home versus something else. Since Mr. Thompson moved in, things changed. Lily stopped playing outside. I heard conversations that seemed tense late at night, and Emma, she looked directly at the little girl. You stopped smiling when you thought no one was looking." Emma's eyes widened. Someone had been watching out for her. Someone had noticed. "I kept telling myself it wasn't my business," Eleanor continued. "But my gut kept telling me that little Lily needed someone to care. I almost came over several times, but I wasn't sure how to help without overstepping. Maya began to cry again, but these were different tears. You mean other people could see that something was wrong? I thought I was hiding it so well. I thought I was protecting Lily by keeping things normal. Oh, honey, Margaret said gently, sometimes when we're in the middle of a difficult situation, it's harder to see clearly. From the outside, I could tell that this precious little girl was carrying burdens too heavy for her small shoulders. Lily looked up at Eleanor with those big blue eyes. You were watching out for me. I was, sweetheart, and I wished I had been braver about reaching out sooner. Sometimes adults make mistakes when they're trying to be polite instead of protective. Ryan was impressed by Eleanor's honesty and the way she spoke to Emma, not talking down to her, but treating her like the intelligent, perceptive child she was. Mrs. Walsh, Lily said softly, Ethan told me that if I told anyone our secrets, no one would believe me. He said grown-ups don't listen to kids. Eleanor's face hardened with determination. Well, Emma, I'm here to tell you that was absolutely wrong. The right grown-ups always listen to children, especially brave children like you, who have important things to say. What made you finally decide to come over today? Maya asked. Margaret smiled. When I saw that this young officer's car was still here after so long, and when I saw Ethan leave looking upset, I knew something had changed. I hoped that maybe Lily had finally found the right person to listen to her. Lily walked over to Eleanor and to everyone's surprise climbed up onto her lap. You have a nice voice, Lily said. It sounds like my grandma's voice before she went to heaven. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears as she gently stroked Emma's hair. Well, I would be honored to be like a grandma to you, if that would be okay with your mommy. Maya nodded gratefully. Lily hasn't trusted a new adult in months. This is wonderful. Ryan watched this scene unfold with a deep sense of hope. Lily was surrounded by people who genuinely cared about her well-being. Eleanor represented something crucial, the community support that every family needed, the extra eyes and ears that helped keep children safe. Mrs. Walsh, Ryan said, would you be willing to stay with Maya and Lily while I handle some official business? They could probably use a friend right now. I wouldn't be anywhere else, Margaret replied firmly. Emma, would you like to help me make some tea? I think your mommy could use something warm and comforting. The next morning, Ryan returned to the Harper house with Dr. Hannah Blake, a child psychologist who specialized in helping young people feel safe enough to share their experiences. Margaret had stayed overnight sleeping on the couch to make sure. Lily and Maya felt protected. Ryan found Lily in the kitchen, sitting at the table with Eleanor, carefully coloring a picture. For the first time since he'd met her, Lily looked like a normal 7-year-old. Her shoulders weren't hunched with fear, and she was humming softly to herself. Good morning, Emma, Ryan said gently. I brought someone very nice to meet you. This is Dr. Evans, but you can call her Dr. Patricia. She's really good at helping. Kids talk about things that might be confusing or scary. Lily looked up from her coloring, still clutching Mr. Buttons, but her curiosity was stronger than her fear. Now, is she like a regular doctor? Not exactly, Dr. Hannah said with a warm smile, sitting down at Emma's level. I'm the kind of doctor who helps feelings get better, not just bodies, and I really love that beautiful picture you're drawing. Is that your house? Lily nodded. It's my house, but I'm making it different. See? She pointed to her drawing with a purple crayon. In my picture, there are happy colors everywhere and no dark corners where scary things hide. The simple statement made everyone in the room understand how deeply Marcus's presence had affected this little girl's sense of safety in her own home. That sounds like a wonderful way to make your house feel better, Dr. Hannah said. Emma, I was wondering if you could help me understand something. Officer Carter told me that you mentioned some games that didn't feel fun. Could you tell me about those?" Emma's coloring slowed down, and she glanced toward her mother, who was sitting nearby with tears in her eyes. "The games were supposed to be our special secret," Lily said quietly. "Ethan said that all daddies play these games with their special girls, and that I was lucky because he chose me to be special." In Emma's mind, she thought, but Mr. Buttons always felt sad after the games, and I felt sad too. Why would special games make us feel bad? What made the games feel not fun? Dr. Hannah asked gently. Lily put down her crayon and hugged Mr. Buttons tighter. They made my tummy feel yucky. And Ethan would say things like, "This is how we show love," but it didn't feel like the love Mommy gives me. It felt wrong, like when someone tells you candy is good for you, but it makes you feel sick. Dr. Hannah nodded understandingly. "That's a very smart way to explain it, Emma. Sometimes our bodies and our hearts know when something isn't right, even when someone tells us it should be okay." And Lily continued, her voice getting stronger. "He told me that if I ever told anyone about our games, something terrible would happen to Mommy. He said we might lose our house and it would be all my fault." Maya couldn't hold back her tears anymore. "Oh, Emma, baby, none of that was your fault, none of it. You were trying to protect Mommy, but it should have been Mommy protecting you." Lily looked at her mother with those wise, sad eyes. "I know that. Now, Mommy, Eleanor and Officer Carter and Dr. Hannah all told me that kids shouldn't have to keep scary secrets to protect grown-ups." Ryan felt his heart break and heal at the same time. This incredible little girl had been carrying such a heavy burden, trying to protect her mother, while being told that speaking the truth would cause disaster. "Emma," Dr. Hannah said, "you showed amazing courage by finally telling the truth, even when you were scared. That took real bravery." "Will Ethan come back?" Lily asked, the fear creeping back into her voice. Ryan knelt down beside her chair. "Emma, I want you to know that there are laws that protect children and lots of people whose job it is to make sure kids are safe. Ethan is not allowed to come back here, and he's not allowed to contact you or your mummy. But what if he tries?" "Anyway," Lily whispered. Eleanor reached over and took Emma's small hand in her weathered one. "Then he'll have to get through me first. And let me tell you, sweetheart, I may be old, but I'm tough as nails when it comes to protecting children." Lily actually smiled at that. The first real smile Ryan had seen from her. "You know what?" Lily said, picking up her purple crayon again. "I think I want to draw some more happy things in my house. Maybe some flowers in the windows and a big, safe door that only lets nice people in." As Lily returned to her coloring with renewed focus, Dr. Hannah looked at Ryan and Maya with hope in her eyes. This little girl was already beginning to heal, already starting to imagine a world where she felt safe and protected. The road ahead would still have challenges, but Lily had taken the most important step. She had found her voice, and she was using it to paint a brighter future. That evening, after Lily had fallen asleep in Eleanor's guest room, she was too afraid to sleep in her own house. Yet Maya sat alone with Ryan and Dr. Hannah in her living room. The weight of everything that had been revealed was crushing down on her like a mountain. "I need to understand," Maya said, her voice shaking. "How did I miss this? How did I let this happen to my baby?" Dr. Hannah leaned forward with compassion in her eyes. "Lisa, what happened to Lily is not your fault. Ethan is a predator who specifically chose your family because you were vulnerable. He studied you, learned your weaknesses, and used them against you." Maya picked up the framed photo of Lily from her first day of school, the one taken just before Ethan entered their lives. Emma's smile in that picture was radiant, carefree, full of joy and innocence. "Look at her," Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Look how happy she was. And then look at what she became. She stopped singing in the morning. She stopped asking me to read bedtime stories. She stopped being Emma." When did you first notice the changes? Ryan asked gently. Maya closed her eyes, forcing herself to remember. About 6 weeks after Ethan moved in, Lily started having nightmares, but he convinced me it was just adjustment to having a father figure in the house. When she became quieter, he said she was just maturing. When she stopped wanting to invite friends over, he said she was becoming more family-focused. The pattern was becoming clear. Ethan had an explanation for every red flag, and Maya had wanted so desperately to believe in the stability he offered that she had accepted his interpretations. I was working 2 jobs before Ethan came along, Maya continued, her voice breaking. Amma and I were about to lose this house. I was failing her in so many ways. When Ethan offered to help, when he seemed to care about both of us, I thought I was finally giving Lily the secure family she deserved. But there were moments when you suspected something, weren't there? Dr. Hannah asked carefully. Maya nodded, her hands trembling as she held the photo tighter. There was a night about 3 weeks ago. I came home from the grocery store, and Lily was sitting in the corner of the living room, just staring at the wall. When I asked what was wrong, she said she felt confused about love. When I pressed her, Ethan quickly stepped in and said they'd been having a deep conversation about family relationships. What did your instincts tell you in that moment? Ryan asked. That something was wrong, Maya admitted, but Ethan made me feel like I was being paranoid, like I was looking for problems that didn't exist. He said Lily was just processing having a father figure for the first time, and that I should trust his experience with children. Maya stood up and walked to the window, looking across the yard to Eleanor's house, where her daughter was finally sleeping peacefully. The worst part, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, is that there was a part of me that knew. Deep down, a mother's instinct was screaming that something was wrong. But I was so terrified of being alone again, so scared of losing our home that I convinced myself I was imagining things. Dr. Patricia's voice was full of understanding. Lisa, financial predators often target single mothers specifically because they understand that fear. Ethan used your love for Lily against you. He made you believe that staying with him was protecting her when actually leaving him was the only way to truly protect her. How do I live with this? Maya asked, turning back to face them with anguish written across her face. How do I live, knowing that my fear of being poor put my daughter in danger? How do I look her in the eyes, knowing that I chose my own security over her safety? Ryan stood up and placed a reassuring hand on Lisa's shoulder. You live with it by doing what you're doing right now. You're choosing Emma. You're facing the truth. No matter how painful it is, you're getting her help and you're getting yourself help to understand how this happened. But what if she never trusts me again? Maya sobbed. What if she never forgives me for not protecting her? At that moment, they heard soft footsteps on the stairs. Lily appeared in the doorway, holding Mr. Buttons and wearing one of Eleanor's oversized t-shirts as pajamas. Mommy, Lily said quietly, I heard you crying. Are you sad because of me? Maya immediately knelt down and opened her arms. Lily ran into them, and mother and daughter held each other as both of them cried. I'm not sad because of you, baby girl, Maya whispered into Emma's hair. I'm sad because I didn't protect you the way a mommy should. And I'm so sorry. Lily pulled back and looked into her mother's eyes. Mommy, I don't want you to be sad. What happened wasn't your fault. Ethan lied to both of us. Dr. Hannah told me that sometimes bad people are really good at tricking grown-ups, too. The wisdom and forgiveness in this 7-year-old's voice left everyone in the room speechless. I still love you, Mummy, Lily said simply, and now we both know the truth, so we can keep each other safe. 3 days had passed since Emma's brave phone call, but Olivia Carter couldn't stop thinking about that little girl's voice. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard Emma's whispered words. He said it wouldn't hurt, but it did. Olivia had been a 911 operator for 15 years, and she had learned to leave work at work. But this case was different. This case had followed her home into her dreams, into her heart. She sat at her kitchen table at 2 a.m., surrounded by old case files and research papers about children in danger. Her husband, Mike, found her there with her laptop open and a cold cup of coffee beside her. "Sarah, honey, you need to get some sleep," Mike said gently, sitting down beside her. "You've been researching non-stop since Tuesday." "I can't shake it, Mike," Olivia said, her eyes red from exhaustion and emotion. "That little girl called me for help, and I almost treated it like just another routine call. What if I hadn't traced the address fast enough? What if she hadn't been brave enough to call back?" Mike looked at the papers scattered across their table, articles about recognizing signs of children in trouble, statistics about unreported cases, training materials for emergency operators. "But she did call," Mike reminded her. "And you did help her. Officer Carter told you that Lily is safe now." Olivia nodded, but her expression remained troubled. "That's just it, though. How many other children are out there right now wanting to call for help, but too scared to pick up the phone? How many voices like Emma's have I missed over the years?" The weight of that possibility was keeping Olivia awake at night. The next morning, Olivia arrived at work with a new sense of purpose. She approached her supervisor, Captain Jordan Pierce, with a proposal that had been forming in her mind for days. "Captain, I want to start a special program," Olivia said, spreading her research across his desk. "I've been reading about how children communicate differently when they're in trouble. They use code words. They speak in riddles. They talk about games and secrets instead of saying what's really happening." Captain Jordan Pierce looked through the materials with interest. "What kind of program are you thinking about?" "Training. Special training for all our operators on how to recognize when children are trying to ask for help in ways that adults might not immediately understand. Lily called me and said it wouldn't hurt, but it did. If I hadn't had good instincts that day, I might have missed what she was really telling me. That's a fascinating idea, Sarah. What would this training look like?" Olivia had clearly thought this through. "We bring in child psychologists, police officers who specialize in protecting children, maybe even some brave adults who were willing to share their own childhood experiences. We learn to listen for the signals that kids send when they're scared, but can't say exactly what's wrong." Captain Jordan Pierce was impressed by Sarah's passion and thoroughness. "You know what, Sarah? Let's do it. Let's make this happen." Meanwhile, across town, Ryan was working with Detective Chloe Ramirez to investigate Marcus's background more thoroughly. What they were discovering was deeply disturbing. "Daniel," Detective Santos said, looking up from her computer screen. "You need to see this. Ethan Cole has lived in 4 different states over the past 8 years, and in each location he was in a relationship with a single mother who had young children." Ryan felt his stomach drop. "Please tell me we're not looking at a pattern here." "I'm afraid we are. I've been in contact with police departments in Tennessee, Alabama, and Florida. In each case, Ethan lived with families for 3 to 6 months before something happened that made him leave suddenly." "What kind of something?" Detective Santos pulled up more files. "In Tennessee, the mother noticed her 5-year-old daughter becoming withdrawn and fearful. When she started asking questions, Ethan disappeared overnight. In Alabama, a neighbor reported strange behavior, but by the time police investigated, Ethan was already gone. In Florida, a school counselor became suspicious and contacted authorities. But again, Ethan had vanished before they could interview him. Ryan realized the horrifying truth. He's done this before. Lily isn't his first victim. I'm afraid not. And what's worse, because he always disappeared before formal charges could be filed, and because the children were too young or too traumatized to provide detailed testimony, he was never arrested. Until now, Ryan said with determination. Lily is braver than the other children were able to be, and this time he didn't run fast enough. Detective Santos nodded. We need to contact those other families. Some of those children are older now, and they might be ready to speak about what happened to them. Emma's courage might give them the strength to come forward too. As Olivia worked on creating her training program and Ryan investigated Marcus's past, none of them realized that Emma's simple, brave phone call was about to become the key that unlocked justice, not just for her, but for other children who had been too afraid to speak. Sometimes it takes one small voice speaking truth to give permission for other voices to join the chorus. Emma's whispered call for help was becoming a symphony of courage that would echo far beyond Maple Street. Detective Chloe Ramirez sat in her office staring at a wall covered with photographs, documents and maps connected by red string. It looked like something from a crime television show, but this was all too real. Each photo represented a family that Ethan Cole had targeted, and the pattern was becoming clearer and more disturbing with every piece of evidence. Her phone rang, and the caller ID showed a long distance number from Alabama. "Detective Santos," she answered. "Hello, this is Detective Lauren Clark from Birmingham PD. I understand you're investigating Ethan Cole." Maria's pulse quickened. "Yes, we are. He's been arrested here in Georgia. What can you tell me about his time in Alabama?" "Well, that's just it." Detective Clark said, 3 years ago, we had a case involving him and a family named the Washingtons. Single mother, 8-year-old. Daughter named Chloe. The mother, Angela, started noticing changes in her daughter's behavior. But before we could complete our investigation, Ethan disappeared. "What kind of changes?" Chloe asked, already knowing the answer would sound familiar. Chloe became withdrawn, started having nightmares, stopped playing with friends. Angela said that whenever she tried to talk to Ethan about it, he had explanations for everything. He convinced her that Chloe was just adjusting to having a father figure. Chloe felt sick. The pattern was identical to what had happened with Lily and Lisa. "Detective Clark, would Angela and Chloe be willing to speak with us now? We have a strong case against Ethan here, and their testimony could help ensure he never hurts another child." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Actually, Detective Santos, that's why I'm calling. Angela saw the news story about your case on social media. She called us yesterday saying that Chloe, who's 11 now, has been asking if she could tell someone about what happened with Marcus. Angela's been waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity to help her daughter find closure." Maria's heart began to race with hope. Would they be willing to testify? Angela said that seeing that little girl, Emma, have the courage to speak up gave Chloe the strength to want to tell her story too. Yes, they want to help. After hanging up, Chloe immediately called Detective Olivia Williams in Florida. "Detective Williams, this is Chloe Santos in Georgia. I believe we spoke about Ethan Cole." "Oh yes, the case with the Harper family. How can I help?" "We're building a much larger case now. We've heard from Alabama, and I suspect Florida might have a similar story." Detective Williams sighed heavily. "We do. The Morales family, single mother named Carmen, 7-year-old twin boys, same pattern. Ethan lived with them for about 4 months before Carmen's sister became suspicious and started asking questions. Ethan left town the next day. Are the boys older? Now, would they be able to speak about what happened? The twins are 10 now, and Carmen has been working with a family therapist since Ethan left. The boys have actually been asking their mother if they did something wrong to make Uncle Marcus's leave so suddenly. Carmen has been trying to find a way to explain what happened in a way they could understand." Chloe realized that Marcus's sudden departures had left the children confused and blaming themselves, adding another layer of trauma to what they had already endured. "Detective Williams, we have something that might help those boys understand it wasn't their fault. We have a 7-year-old girl named Lily who was brave enough to call for help, and her courage is inspiring other children to speak their truth too. Meanwhile, across the country in Tennessee, Rebecca Martinez was reading about Emma's case on her phone, while her 12-year-old daughter, Sophia, did homework at the kitchen table. Rebecca's hands were shaking as she read the details. The description of Marcus, the way he targeted single mothers, the manipulation tactics. It was all horribly familiar. "Mom, what's wrong?" Sophia asked, looking up from her math assignment. Rebecca had been dreading this conversation for 4 years, but seeing Emma's courage in the news made her realize it was time. "Sophia, do you remember Marcus, the man who lived with us when you were 8? Sophia's expression immediately changed. Her shoulders tensed and she looked down at her homework. "Yeah, I remember him. Honey, I need you to know that if anything happened during that time that made you feel uncomfortable or scared, it wasn't your fault. And if you ever want to talk about it, I'm ready to listen." Sophia was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked up at her mother with tears in her eyes. "Mom, I saw the news about that little girl, Emma, who called the police. Is that why you made Ethan leave so suddenly?" Rebecca's heart broke as she realized her daughter had been carrying questions and confusion about Marcus's departure for 4 years. "Yes, sweetheart. I started to suspect that Ethan wasn't the good person he pretended to be. I was trying to protect you, but I realize now that leaving you with questions might have been just as hard as what happened. I want to be brave like Emma," Sophia said quietly. "I want to help make sure Ethan can't hurt any more kids." As phone calls were made and families in multiple states began to speak with detectives, Emma's single brave phone call was creating a network of truth-telling that stretched across the country. Children who had been too afraid to speak were finding their voices. Mothers who had blamed themselves were finding support, and law enforcement was building an ironclad case against a predator who had thought he was untouchable. Emma's whispered words, "He said it wouldn't hurt, but it did," had become the first domino in a chain reaction that would ensure Ethan Cole could never harm another child again. 1 week after her brave phone call, Lily was sitting in Dr. Patricia's office, carefully arranging a dollhouse that the therapist used to help children express their feelings. For the first time since Ryan had met her, Lily was moving with confidence, placing tiny furniture exactly where she wanted it. "This is the living room," Lily explained to Dr. Patricia, "and this is where only nice people are allowed to sit. And this," she moved a small bed into a corner room, "is where the little girl sleeps, and no one comes in unless she says it's okay." Dr. Hannah smiled at the way Lily was rebuilding her world, piece by piece, with safety and control at the center. "Emma," Dr. Hannah said gently, "Officer Carter has something very special to tell you. Would you like to hear it?" Ryan had been sitting quietly in a corner chair, watching Lily play with wonder at how much she had changed in just 1 week. The frightened, silent little girl was becoming confident and expressive again. "Emma," Ryan began, "do you remember when you called me on the phone and you were scared to tell me what was happening?" Lily nodded, still arranging the dollhouse. "I was scared Ethan was right, that no one would believe me. Well, something amazing has happened because you were so brave. Other children heard about your courage and they decided to be brave too." Lily looked up from the dollhouse with curiosity. "Other children?" "Yes," Ryan continued. "There are children in other states, in Alabama, Florida, and Tennessee, who had similar scary experiences with Marcus. But they were too afraid to tell anyone, just like you were. When they heard about how brave you were, they found the courage to tell their stories too." Emma's eyes grew wide. "Really? There are other kids like me?" Dr. Hannah leaned forward. "Emma, your phone call didn't just help you and your mommy. It helped children across the entire country. You started something very important." Lily was quiet for a moment, processing this information. Then she asked, "Were the other kids scared like I was?" Yes, they were, Ryan replied. But when they saw how brave you were, they realized they could be brave too. You showed them that telling the truth, even when it's scary, is the right thing to do. Lily carefully placed a tiny family in the dollhouse living room. A mother, a little girl, and a police officer figure. Dr. Patricia, Lily said thoughtfully, could I talk to the other kids? Could I tell them that it gets better after you tell the truth? Dr. Hannah exchanged a meaningful look with Daniel. Would you like to do that, Emma? Yes, Lily said with surprising determination. I want them to know that they're not alone, and I want them to know that the scared feelings go away when nice adults believe you. A few days later, with the help of Dr. Hannah and the other therapists working with Marcus's victims, Lily participated in a special video call with Chloe from Alabama, the twins from Florida, and Sophia from Tennessee. At first, all the children were shy, but Lily spoke first. Hi, everyone, she said, holding Mr. Buttons. My name is Emma, and I'm the one who called the police. I want you to know that I was really scared, too. One by one, the other children began to share their experiences. They talked about feeling confused, about being told to keep secrets, about wondering if what happened was their fault. It's not our fault, Lily said firmly, sounding wise beyond her 7 years. Ethan lied to all of us. He told me that no one would believe me, but that was a lie too. Lots of people believed me, and they believe all of you too. Chloe, now 11, spoke up. Emma, thank you for being brave first. I don't think I could have told my story if you hadn't shown me how. We are all brave now, Lily replied, and Ethan can't hurt any more kids because we told the truth. After the video call ended, Lily turned to Dr. Hannah with a question that showed how much she had grown. Dr. Patricia, do you think other kids who are scared right now will hear about us and know they can ask for help too? I think they will, Emma. I think your courage is going to help children for a very long time. Lily smiled, not the scared, hesitant smile she had worn for months, but a genuine, confident smile of a child who knew she had made a difference. Good, she said simply. Every kid should feel safe. As Lily returned to playing with her dollhouse, arranging and rearranging it until it felt perfectly safe, Ryan and Dr. Hannah watched in amazement. This little girl, who had whispered fearfully into a phone just 1 week ago, was now a beacon of hope for children across the country. Lily had discovered something that many adults never learn, that speaking truth, even when it's scary, has the power to change the world. And sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. 2 months after Emma's brave phone call, the courtroom was filled with people who had come to support her and the other children. Lily sat between Maya and Eleanor, wearing her favorite purple dress and holding Mr. Buttons tightly. Ryan looked across the room at Marcus, who no longer carried himself with the charm and confidence he had once used to manipulate families. Facing the testimony of 5 brave children from 4 different states, his mask had completely fallen away. The prosecutor, Miss Lauren McCarthy, approached Emma's witness stand with gentle respect. Emma, you don't have to be afraid. Just tell us about the phone call you made. Emma's voice was clear and strong. I called 911 because I needed help. Ethan was doing things that made me feel scared and confused, and he told me no one would believe me, but Officer Carter believed me right away. What gave you the courage to make that call? Lily thought for a moment, then smiled slightly. Mr. Buttons, he helped me remember that telling the truth is always the right thing to do, even when it's scary. When Ms. Walsh asked if she saw the person who had scared her in the courtroom, Lily looked directly at Ethan without fear. Yes, that's him. But I'm not scared anymore, because I know he can't hurt me or any other kids now. Marcus's lawyer tried to suggest that Lily was confused or influenced by adults, but Emma's clear, honest answers never wavered. When Chloe, the twins, and Sophia testified via video link, their stories created an undeniable pattern of truth. After 3 days of testimony, The jury took only 2 hours to reach their verdict. Ethan Cole was found guilty on all charges. He would spend the next 20 years in prison, ensuring he could never target another family. As the judge read the verdict, Lily squeezed Mr. Buttons and whispered, "We did it. We kept other kids safe." 6 months later, Emma's life had transformed completely. She was back to being the joyful, curious 7-year-old she had always been meant to be. She laughed loudly, asked endless questions, and had made 3 new friends at school. Maya had completed therapy and found a new job at a non-profit organization that helped families in crisis. "I want to help other mothers trust their instincts," she told Daniel. "I want them to know it's never too late to choose their children's safety." Margaret had officially become Emma's honorary grandmother, teaching her to bake cookies and tend the garden. Their houses were connected by a well-worn path through the backyard, and Lily spent most afternoons after school in Eleanor's kitchen doing homework and sharing stories about her day. Sarah's training program had been implemented in 911 centers across Georgia, with plans to expand nationwide. She had received letters from operators in other states sharing stories of children they had been able to help because of the new training. Lily Olivia said during a visit, "Your phone call is still helping children every single day. Operators everywhere now know how to listen for the special ways kids ask for help." Dr. Hannah continued working with Emma, but their sessions now focused on building confidence rather than healing trauma. "Emma," she said, "you've become one of the strongest people I know. What you did took real heroism." Ryan had been promoted and now led a special unit focused on protecting children. On his office wall hung Emma's drawing of a police officer helping. A little girl with the words, "Thank you for believing me," written in purple crayon. Emma's story had been featured in a children's safety program that taught kids about the difference between good secrets and scary secrets, and how to recognize trusted adults who would always believe them. But the most important change was also the simplest one. Lily finally felt safe. She could sleep through the night in her own bed, laugh while playing in the yard, and trust the adults around her without fear. Exactly 1 year after that life-changing 911 call, Lily stood in front of a room filled with police officers, social workers, and child advocates, all gathered to learn from her story. At just 8 years old, she had become an unexpected hero, though she carried the title with quiet humility. "When I called 911, Lily said softly, clutching Mr. Buttons in one hand while speaking into the microphone, "I was really scared. But I learned something important. When kids tell the truth, incredible things can happen." She paused for a moment, scanning the room with wide, brave eyes. 5 kids found their voices because I found mine first. And now Ethan can't hurt anyone anymore. That makes me feel really good inside. The entire room fell silent. Some wiped away tears, others held their breath, listening to the powerful words of a child who had survived something unthinkable. "I want other kids to know," Lily continued, "that if something makes them feel scared or uncomfortable, they should always tell a grown-up they trust. And if that person doesn't listen, they should tell another and another and another, until someone finally hears them." Her final words echoed with a force far greater than her small voice. Every child deserves to feel safe and loved. Sometimes one tiny voice can change everything. After her speech, Lily went back to being a normal 8-year-old, riding bikes with her friends, laughing in the park, and helping Margaret plant flowers in the garden. But her story didn't end there. The Lily Dawson Foundation was soon established, creating programs to train teachers, social workers, and law enforcement to recognize signs of children in danger. Sarah's updated 911 training was adopted across all 50 states, changing how dispatchers handled calls from kids. Daniel's specialized police unit became a national model for protecting vulnerable children. Most importantly, Emma's courage sparked something bigger than herself. Children everywhere began to learn that their voices matter, that truth carries power, and that there are always adults willing to protect them. A few months later, on her 9th birthday, Lily sat surrounded by the people who loved her most, safe, happy, and free. As she leaned over her cake to blow out the candles, she closed her eyes and made a wish, not for toys, not for herself, but for every child, everywhere, to feel just as safe as she did in that moment. Her story proved something extraordinary. Sometimes the smallest voices hold the loudest truths, and sometimes one single act of courage can light up the darkness for countless others.